on January 1st, Mogotsi informed Matlala.
On January the 1st?
Yeah.
Okay.
That he would be meeting with you and Lieutenant General Sabia. He says in a text message, "Good day, I've arranged a meeting for Sabia and the minister. Must have a solution."
There are two questions there. The first one is, would it concern me that Mogotsi seems to have...
Shortly after you,
yes,
should...
It would concern me.
It would?
It would concern me. Okay. Because I wouldn't know how that happened. But not only when my letter found its way into his hands on the date and time, it would have concerned me if my letter found its way into any other person's hand. I would similarly worry how it happened, and therefore the answer is straight. It would worry me. I would be very much concerned. Now, about this meeting, which is my second response, that he would arrange a meeting. It is him, apparently, who talks about that, not me. I never, and I want to repeat, I never spoke to Brown Mogotsi in this period, particularly about the disbandment. How he got to know, how he got access to the letter, it is better explained by him. And that will be the only time that I would get to know how it happened. But about this meeting, there was no such meeting on my side. It was never communicated to me. I would know what the meeting would have been about. I never spoke to Sbia about this meeting, that there was a meeting that was imminent between me and him, that I had sent somebody, and nobody ever raised the issue of a meeting between me and Sbia after the letter of directives.
Did this letter only go to General Masemola? Did you send the letter, by the way, to General Masemola, or did you ask Kabindi to send it to your Chief of Staff?
After leaks to, outside ourselves, I spoke to Chief of Staff. Where did you send the letter yourself? And he told me he sent the letter to General Masemola, to General Mosikiti, which I had directed him to do. But he, if I remember well, he also sent to PAs of the generals. I can't remember whether he also included General Sbia on that. He can clarify the matter himself, but what I underlined, I had said, send it to General Masemola, send it to General Mosikiti, because she's the one who is in the office. But it appears that he also sent to their PAs.
We know that General Masemola wouldn't have leaked the letter.
That?
We know that General Masemola wouldn't have leaked the letter to Mogotsi because he only heard about it through the media, I think on the 2nd of January.
In order to come to the bottom of this, it will have to be Mogotsi himself to explain how he got hold of this, what he meant by this meeting and so on. But on my part, I wasn't expecting that he would get hold of my letter unless it had gone maybe to social media or leaked to social media, as it seems to have been the case. But it is him who must explain how he got hold. But it concerns me, and there was never any meeting that took place in any case, as along those lines that you're talking about.
I'm not dealing with a meeting now, Minister. I'm
Yes.
dealing with the fact. It appears to be a fact that Mogotsi got hold of the letter and conveyed that to Matlala. So it wasn't you who sent it to him. It wasn't General Masemola. It could only have been either Nkabindi or one of the PAs or secretaries to one of the other generals that he copied the letter to.
Well, I really want to confine me not to any speculation, but if indeed Matlala received this letter from Mogotsi, it would mean it happened that way. And that concerns me as well, what it was sent for, because it was never meant for Matlala or any other person that he may have sent the letter to.
In fact, it was only meant for Masemola. It wasn't even meant for Nkabinde.
It was meant for Masemola, General Masemola, and General Mosikiti, in terms of my instruction.
That doesn't appear from the directive, Musikili. But you say your instructions.
Verbally, I told him send it because I knew that General Masemola is is going on leave, and he has appointed General Mosikiti to be in the office. So send the letter to General Mosikiti so that she is aware of this decision.
Now, I think most people, most reasonable people would find it quite odd and curious, almost bizarre that you send a letter of this importance on New Year's Eve.
Oh, yes.
At 5:20 and address it to a national commissioner you know is on leave. He's taken a break until the 14th of January. I think you know that. And he's not even in his office. There's an acting national commissioner in the office. And your instructions in the letter, or as you want to frame it, your directive is that this team be disestablished immediately. Clearly, physically, he can't do it because he's not in his office. He's on leave. So I want to put it to you that the issuing of this directive on New Year's Eve to a national commissioner who's on leave, it doesn't make sense. It's totally bizarre. And unless you can give us some other reason why you would have done so.
Yes. One, on the 31st of December for police, it's a working day. They work on the 31st. There's no law that...
Masemola's not working. He's on leave.
Yes, he was on leave.
Yeah.
That is why the instruction said, send it to him. He is on leave. Send it to General Mosikiti, who is in office. That's not an offense. That's not breach of any law, because I wanted him to be aware. I was aware that he was on leave. And as far as I'm concerned, as a second reason, I sincerely and seriously wanted a situation where when we go back to work in January, we have a sense of 3 issues that have been lifted from the maze of other issues for attention, including the workshop that was spoken about and so on. I wanted us to find a way to focus on these 3 issues because I wanted a sense of achievement, something concrete that I could show to the Republic that, look, we have activated police properly and increased efficiencies on border management. 2, we want to make interventions on intelligence for reasons that I would state, and that I am making efforts within a short period when I'm there, well, short, but it was 6 months, that we want to optimize. We want to optimize in terms of resources, and this is one way. And when I indicated that let us deactivate the inspectorate, nobody asked me why it was 3 o'clock when I did it, or why it was 10 o'clock. We did it. We discussed, we took that decision at the time that we did. So to me, 31st was neither here nor there, and was not indicative of any sinister move or anything on my side. And the immediate that you spoke about in this context, to me, it was, as I explained, that this was not an immediate in the context of a drill. That is why there was an envisage, even written down, that will meet, prepare an interim committee, an interim report, and it further said there will then be a MINESCO to discuss this matter.
But Minister, with respect, that's not what the letter says. That there's some interim response that's required. Your letter states clearly that the team must be disestablished immediately. Now,
In the context that I've
yes,
explained.
Unless there's some other meaning to this word, immediately.
Yes, I've
The
explained.
English meaning of immediately means do it right now.
Senior Counsel,
Let's look at the letter.
yeah, but let me explain this, because I'm here to respond.
Yes, but I would also want to contextualize what
Okay.
I'm asking you.
Thank you.
If I get an opportunity. You write to the National Commissioner, and you say, I trust this correspondent finds you well in the festive season. In the past few months, towards the end of this year, 2024, I have made observations on a number of important aspects of the SAPS and policing. For purposes of this letter, I'm focusing on 3 aspects that require very urgent attention to address some of the challenges at hand. Filling of posts in the intelligence division. All processes to fill vacant posts in the division should be altered immediately. And this also applies to posts currently vacant at head office. This should be until substantive discussions between the Minister and the National Commissioner takes place sometime early in the year. Ports of entry. It is common cause that all South African ports of entry are managed by Border Management Authority, with SAPS playing a vital role in the same space, which cannot be overemphasized. In line with this role, SAP personnel impact and efficiency should be reviewed from time to time. In terms of Section 2072, direct that you develop a new plan in this regard to the next ministry, to the next MINECO, Minister Management Executive Committee meeting later in January. And I'm skipping that part because that part the National Commissioner had no problem with. He says this is fine. It's to develop a plan, and you want to discuss it, have the plan ready. But then in relation to the political task team, you say in 2019, a directive was made to the National Commissioner of Police following the Morani Commission report, even though not flowing directly from such, that an interministerial task team be established. Now we know that do you accept that now that you know the background, that's factually incorrect. It's not in 2019.
Yes, 2018.
2018.
That was
and it's also not following the Morani report, but it follows a political instruction from the president.
Yes.
Sorry. So that line, that's factually incorrect.
Yes, that's okay. Although I do say not directly from the Morana Commission. Because the Morana Commission, whatever the case, it was discussed even earlier. 2018 discussions, not the report itself. But I concede that point, that it was...
And then you go on to say the key mandate was to stop. So it's not quite clear. Are you referencing the Morani Commission report? Or the Interministerial Task Force that was established? The key mandate, you say, was to stop / investigate / resolve unresolved murders of politicians in the country, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. Then you say, my observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. Now, if we pause there, if those are two reasons, it's no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. That's not one of the reasons that you've given, that you spent quite a bit of time elaborating and expanding on. But these are the only two reasons that you give in this letter. It's no longer required because it's no longer, and it's also not adding any value to policing in South Africa. And then you say, I therefore direct that the political killings task team be disestablished immediately. Further, that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the Minister by the 20th of January. The final and closing report, not as you testified, Minister. It's not a provisional report. It's not a preliminary report. You say the final and closing report must be submitted to the Ministry Management Executive Committee meeting late January 2025, the date of which will be communicated as soon as possible. Now, I put it to you with respect, Minister, that if one reads this letter, it's very clear. You say, disestablish, discontinue this task team immediately, do it now. And the final report I'm expecting from you at the end of January. But I want a preliminary report on the 20th of January and the final report at this MANECO Management Executive Committee meeting late January. The instructions are clear. It's not only clear, but it also seems to me, upon reflection, totally unreasonable that you give the National Commissioner, who's on leave, you said you knew he was on leave until the 14th of January, that you must give you a preliminary report by the 20th and a final report by the end of January. Your comments.
Thank you, Evidence Leader. Now, I have explained, as I will do again, the word immediately. Now, it didn't mean, Senior Counsel, that, for instance, anybody driving the car must then stop and leave the car and go home because the political killings task team has now been closed. It didn't mean that. It didn't mean that if you were pursuing any case, because closing a case is something else, and as you see, it's not there. It didn't mean that. It didn't mean that. Stop the car where you are. Drop the key, go home, because...
But Minister, why didn't you write? You said you your decision, your directive. We'll still discuss it, although, you know, I'm not here to discuss the law or draw legal conclusions.
Yes.
But clearly what you've read and what we've also received when we asked, we sent an information note to your legal team. We've been given the reasons that you think it's lawful and it's constitutional. So I don't want to debate that. But you say you held the honest belief that is in the best interest of the South African Police Service that this team be disestablished. You also said what you meant in this directive is not that, like a car, you must stop it immediately and get out of the car and leave it in the middle of the road. This is dangerous to do that. At least pull it off, at least pull it off the road and put on your hazards or something and show, you know, there's some car in the road and to avoid the car. Now why did you not write this letter in that kind of language when you knew that the National Commissioner is on leave until the 14th? And say to him, for example, you know, even though it's New Year's Eve, there are 3 matters that I would love to discuss with you urgently or very urgently upon your return. And these are the 3 matters. Or could you give me a report on these 3 matters or 1 matter by 20 January and by the end of January? But that's not the tone of the letter. I put it to you, Minister, that this letter and the tone of the letter, the language used in the letter, is in direct contrast to what you are telling us today, that you held this honest belief that this team must be closed and it must be disestablished, and that you had the power to do so. That doesn't come out of the letter when one reads the plain language of the letter and the record that we've heard in this inquiry, and which you, I think, fairly have acknowledged that the STARS team, when they were in operation, they did a good job. They did what they were required to do.
So can I respond?
Yeah.
Senior Counsel, you are respectfully talking about various matters. Let me address the one that you addressed later of the tone. There's a different matter of the tone. I share your feeling that the tone was strong.
The tone was strong.
The tone was strong.
Or wrong?
Pardon?
You share my view that the tone was strong or wrong?
It does seem,
both.
It does seem what you're expressing to me is your personal concern that the tone was rather strong. I have no problem with that. I agree that it may have been a strong tone, to a point where what you are suggesting that it could have said this and this same thing, but on a softer tone. It could have happened. I have no problem with that, Senior Counsel.
In fact, may I add on to that?
But
I think
may I respond?
Yes, but
yeah, so that I don't forget.
Given a full opportunity, let me just add this. I think the tone is actually quite disturbing, especially when you talk about filling posts in the intelligence division, especially now that we know the issues, let's just call them neutrally issues with intelligence, and it's at the heart of this whole inquiry. And you say the filling of posts must be altered immediately, even vacant posts must be altered immediately. And I think you mentioned in your evidence that you, into the new year, that's why you wrote it on the 31st,
Yes,
into the new year you wanted to give us, the public, some kind of confidence that these issues are being addressed?
The way the Senior Council is putting it, in terms, it's like there was a panel with people lined up for interviews, and then I say, stop. It wasn't like that, Senior Council. There was no lineup of people to be interviewed at night on the 31st. So it wasn't a question of saying, stop. It didn't say on the date, while you are driving on the car, stop the car and get out. What I'm saying, I share with you, which happens ordinarily in any conversation, anytime, in ordinary life, that you talk to somebody and then you say, somebody would say to you, hey, you were rather strong-toned. That happens in everyday life experience. It's an everyday life experience. I know you were soft and nice. It's part of life. Now here, I admit that the tone was strong. But I also similarly want to agree that, want to indicate to you that on the 21st of November, I had convened a meeting, National Commissioner, Deputy National Commissioners and Provincial Commissioners, and said, the murder rate in the country is concerning. So you call a meeting, you express that to your Minister of Police. You say the escalation of drug distribution and the destruction that comes with that. I'm very concerned to a point where I don't sleep well. You go on to say there are too many firearms killing too many people, especially illegal firearms. You are deeply concerned and you are addressing this issue live. Now, on the 31st, you write a letter. You are stuck, completely focused on these matters that you believe strongly and honestly, that are a concern to people out there. Even on the 31st, people are worried about issues on border management, even on the 31st. Not all of us who have met and go and bribe on the 31st.
I'm not even sure that people want to be worried on the 31st of December with anything.
Yes, I'm now addressing, because in sharing your concern, I also want the House to be alive on what concerned people outside. I may have been concerned about National Commissioner being on leave. I may have been concerned about the tone. But in this instance, it doesn't mean that the tone was unlawful. It doesn't mean that the act itself was unlawful. I wrote these directives. I accept that I may have chosen a softer tone on this, but it was no insult to anyone. I knew National Commissioner is on leave, send the letter to acting National Commissioner.
When did you entertain or begin to entertain these thoughts that you need to address these issues, and that it sounds to me like this is in the public interest, that these issues must be addressed? When did you start entertaining these thoughts? When did you start scribbling down? Because you say you drafted this letter yourself.
It's a cumulative issue that I'd been aware long before I became Minister of Police, that there is a grievance out there, outside ourselves as Cabinet, outside ourselves as MPs, about how porous our borders are. I even called a meeting for that. I even called the CEO of AXA to come and brief us about what's happening at OR Airport in terms of security, tight security at the airports. I may as well jump a little bit and say 2 weeks before General Mchunu went to a press briefing, I had called a meeting of the National Commissioner and Crime Intelligence to come and make a presentation to me about drugs in South Africa, about firearms in South Africa. I've got documents here. And that meeting, that presentation was done to me. It took more than 2 hours.
But you never discussed the political killings task team in that meeting.
But
you never discussed the political killings task team in that meeting.
in that meeting, no, we
despite the fact
discussed
that-
drugs
Yeah.
and firearms, which are killing people outside. So I had said in November, I am deeply worried about these 2 matters. Now, it's now 31st. And I then write the letter about issues that I believed were deeply concerning, not just to me. Now, I couldn't, in my choice, be worried more about that it was the 31st than the impact of these matters that I was talking about to our work. I couldn't.
I mean, you received
Senior Counsel,
sorry,
may we take the hand of Honorable Malam?
Not, thanks, Chair. I'm not hearing, and I want to understand about this immediately. Is the immediately in the draft that you send to the Chief of Staff, who sent it to your advisor? If you're to give us the draft, not the final version of the letter, will we find a word which will now accept that it was strong? Will we find immediate in the draft letter?
Yes, immediately was written by me. Both in the draft that was checked by Advocate Pikoli and in the final draft. But as I've explained, in the context where you say, I need a preliminary report by a date after the 20th or something like that of January. So common sense tells you that the person who was writing this immediate was envisaging that the immediate doesn't mean stonewalling just there. You are driving the car, I've taken a decision. You are under arrest, get out. Because this car belongs to the task team. A decision has been taken. No, it merely was, the decision has been taken immediately, but the preliminary report in some future. But then the meeting of UNESCO in another future. Now, if you are in the executive and you are worried, you have to show your true colors and show seriousness on what you are conveying. I'm not saying be harsh. I'm not saying have a strong tone. But the issues that I had identified were of serious worry to me, even on the 31st. And I want to believe that I wasn't alone. I was with other people in South Africa. I was expressing their views. And I believe that it was lawful. And there was nothing wrong with it. But if you say the tone was strong, yes, the tone may have been strong.
sorry, Honorable Chair.
But not as if there was something illegal about it, not as if there was something unlawful about it.
Okay.
Ukuzwelana nje ukuthi yayingabekeka ngeindlela incwadi. Singazwelana lapho sikhalisana. Ngiyavuma ukuthi hayi ngayibeka yathi ba strong. Kodwa hayi ukuthi
Extra strong.
not that it was unlawful, not that it was
No,
unconstitutional.
she's saying it's unlawful or
Yes.
You know, whether you use strong language or light language, it's either lawful or unlawful. So,
Yes, thank you.
And I
Honorable
check,
Chair, is
how
has
much
Honorable Malema been
Yeah.
responded to?
I got a signal that he's satisfied. I want to check with you, how much more time do you still need?
Well,
I can allocate you 4 hours more.
I think we had earlier agreed, Honorable Chair, that we will stop at 6
Okay.
and resume tomorrow morning.
So you want to stop?
If we could adjourn and resume, I think the Minister.
Do you really want to stop now?
Honorable Chair?
Do you really want to stop now?
I've got a number of questions. But I think since we set aside tomorrow, let's resume.
When I ask you this question and look at the honorable members. No, Senior Counsel, I think if you feel that you want us to stop, we have to stop. Unless if honorable members have a different view. Let me take Honorable Malema, Honorable Skosana, Honorable Nomval.
No, thanks, Chair. I was saying to the evidence leader that if he wants to go on, he must go on. Because tomorrow, in as much as we want to allocate him more time to ask questions, remember what you said, that we've got different commitments, some of us, and we may want, if he agrees that perhaps tomorrow we'll finish at a reasonable time so that we can get sufficient time to attend to other political matters. Because during the week, we allocate this time for this, and then during weekend, we serve our constituencies. So the other one must not suffer because of the other one. Thanks.
Honorable Nomvalo.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, Chair, in fact, I want to persuade the evidence leader, but obviously, depending on the strength of the witness, that we proceed so that tomorrow we finish early. Because many members, we don't want to experience what we experienced last week. I think only 4 of us were left here, 4 or 5. So don't want to experience that. So if we can continue, even if we continue until 10 o'clock, for as long as it covers the large part of his examination, then we come and leave what is out, and finish what will be outstanding tomorrow, Chair. It's my persuasion to him, but obviously we must consider the feelings of the witness.
Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted a clarity from the Minister, because earlier I don't understand when you said the National Co-Commissioner.
The question is not what we are dealing with now.
Oh, you are talking about time?
Yes.
10 o'clock is fine, Chair.
Okay, we will come to that later. Honorable Sangwes.
Chairperson, let's not act like disorganized people. This matter was canvassed in terms of time. It was agreed that today and tomorrow the evidence leader would lead testimony of Minister Mchunu. There was an agreement that the stop time today would be 6 o'clock, and then tomorrow it would be 2 o'clock, which I believe provides sufficient time from the evidence leader to be able to raise any other questions that he wants to raise. Now, if we have not managed to organize ourselves and our programs, it can't be a problem of the ad hoc committee as a whole. And I think that those decisions that we had made in terms of how we're going to manage these proceedings, we should retain, Chairperson, please. Thank you.
Tomorrow, if we start at 7. No, listen, honorable members, I'm telling you what is happening tomorrow. Okay. If we start at 11 tomorrow, we are finishing at 3. If we start at 10, we finish at 2. If we start at 9, we finish at 1. If we start at 8, we finish at 12. If we start at 7, we finish at 11. So I want us to start at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And then we will be done by 2 o'clock. So